Good morning. We're carrying on with the book of Vimala Thakar of her talks in California in 1968. I still have a little bit further to go in the last talk that I was reading yesterday. So she says, meditation is an all-inclusive attention, which is all the time moving with the movement of life. That's a beautiful definition. So meditation is an all-inclusive attention which is all the time moving with the movement of life. It is getting related to the facts as they are and not wishing them away. A person who has seen how the movement of ego creates jealousy and envy has seen all the mischief of the ego. One moment it is jealousy, the next it is anger, the third discontent, the fourth moment it is violence. All this implies the unwillingness of the ego to face reality. The inquirer of meditation, the inquirer of what freedom is observing. Really, you can't have the luxury of being absent-minded and distracted. You have to be totally aware every moment of life. You have to watch the movement and move with life as it comes and unfolds without getting stuck in your reactions. Without getting stuck in your reactions. Freedom is to move with life without inhibitions. Nothing from the objective world prevents us, but it is rather our own subjective world, our own subconscious in which we get stuck. So I read this one more time. The inquirer of meditation, the inquirer of what freedom is observing. Really, you cannot have the luxury of being absent-minded and distracted. You have to be totally aware every moment of life. You have to watch the movement and move with life as it comes and unfolds without getting stuck in your reactions. Freedom is to move with life without inhibitions. Nothing from the objective world prevents us, but it is rather our own subjective world, our own subconscious, in which we get stuck. Psychological revolution is setting oneself free of the momentum of memory. You cannot destroy memory. You cannot wish it away. It is there. It is bound to be there. You cannot wish away the senses. They are bound to be there, receiving impressions. You cannot wish away the conditioned brain cells. They are bound to react according to their conditioning. Man has been fighting against it for centuries in the name of religion, and it is how conflicts and contradictions have come about. Neither the way of suppressing nor the way of fighting it is the right way. We begin by saying that meditation is not a mental action, not a mental activity. So the habit of mind, the habit of ideation and conceptualization will not be of any use in meditation. Those who want the sensation of having new experiences should go the way of concentration. Excuse me. Those who want the sensation, excuse me. So we began by saying that meditation is not a mental activity. So the habit of mind, the habit of conceptualization, will not be of any use in meditation. Those who want the sensation of having new experiences should go the way of concentration and not the way of meditation. Meditation is a total way of life. The craze for extrasensory and transcendental experiences is a raging storm all over the world. Everybody wants experiences. Meditation, on the other hand, is a way of total freedom. It's the realm of nothingness. It's the realm of emptiness. It is not negative, it is creative. It is full of dynamism. We may talk about this next week. To play with meditation is more dangerous than playing with fire. You may be in the realm where you as an entity may not survive separate from the universal life. You, as a rigid entity, the ego, the me, may not be there at all. This you, this myth of I consciousness, has been created and built up through the centuries. It is solidified knowledge and experience. It may melt away completely. Is the urge for freedom so strong? Is the flame of inquiry burning so bright that all else will be consumed in that flame? People who want both really get themselves into a very miserable condition. For some hours they want to be religious, and for some hours they want to be the successful businessman and the most efficient administrator. They want to go by the norms and standards of the world, and they want to talk about religion and meditation and truth. That creates an additional contradiction, and one becomes a victim of schizophrenia. This is a dangerous game to play. Is one willing to expose oneself to total freedom? And I say again that this is the only hope for the world. To have the courage to stand in the nakedness of consciousness. This is humility. One moment. That's the end of this talk. This is the 8th talk, 13th of October 1968, in San Francisco, California. I deem it a privilege and an honor to be allowed to come here this morning and talk to you about something which is very close to my heart. As without sunshine, life becomes dull and cold, so without love, life becomes meaningless and tasteless. If we look at the history of humanity through many bygone centuries, we see that man has yet to find out for himself what love is. He has yet to make a personal discovery of that beautiful dimension of life which is love. He has yet to be rooted in love, live in love, and act out of love. Man has not yet become mature, and therefore, whether in the East or in the West, Man is living in misery and sorrow, going through untold sufferings and tears, which are unwarranted for a humane life. To me, love is maturity, hate is immaturity. Love is non-violence when expressed in human relationships, which is maturity. And lack of love is violence when expressed in human relationships, individually or collectively. There seems to be a storm raging over the horizons of the global human family of hate, bitterness, and violence. One wonders when we are going to learn the way of love. One wonders when man is going to grow into maturity and finish this juvenile business of fighting in the name of race, religion, nation, political ideologies, and economic theories. For me, life without love, life without God, has no meaning at all. All the physical comfort, material progress, economic security, and political stability become decorations of a tomb. Let us find out what we mean by love. How does one arrive at that dimension of love where peace reigns supreme, where mutual understanding and reverence for one another becomes the perfume of mutual relationships? Love surely is not a sentiment or a feeling. We live through the senses. We are either agreeably disposed towards certain things emotionally, or we are disagreeably disposed towards some other things. That is what we call pleasure and pain, happiness and sorrow. They are not facts of life. The agreeability or disagreeability of a sensation to the sense organs and the agreeability or disagreeability of a sensation to the mind is termed joy or sorrow, pleasure and pain. Now, when I'm emotionally agreeably disposed towards a person, I say that I love that person. I have affection for that person. And I would like to submit that it is not love. It is a feeling. It is a sentiment which results from the agreeability of a sensation. That's all. Love is not a sentiment or a feeling at all. Love is not instinct or impulse, which the human beings carry in their psychology as the hangover of the animal world. Impulses and instincts also create a kind of agreeable sensations. So impulsively, you feel attracted towards a person or you feel repulsed from a person. Repulsion is just the shadow of an attraction. It has no independent existence on its own. Such impulsive fascination or impulsive repulsion surely is not what love is. That attraction lasts as far as the momentum of the impulse can carry it. When the momentum of the impulse gets exhausted, the attraction fades away. Those who are intellectually developed feel attracted towards other persons who have similar thought tendencies, ideas, ideologies. What is an idea or an ideology? It is an organized thought, is it not? So I feel attracted towards other people who have the same thinking pattern, the same pattern of intellectual reactions to situations. And I call that attraction. Similarly, similarity in thinking is not the foundation of love. Today I feel attracted, and tomorrow the person changes his ideology or way of thinking. Then the comrades of yesterday become the competitors and enemies of tomorrow. That is what is happening in Czechoslovakia and Russia today. So this attraction created by the stimulus of the intellect in the same direction is not love. Thirdly, we take gratification of the ego as love or affection. I have a family, I have a husband and wife, or a wife and children. As long as the husband or the wife gratifies the ego, the will of the ego to dominate, the desire of the ego to own and possess things, and individuals to control and shape the behavior of the members of the family. When I can do all this, I say I love them. If the husband or the wife or the children cease to gratify my ego, and if they grow into independent human beings, different from my ideas, defying all my attempts to own, possess, and dominate them, then the so-called love of the husband for the wife gets converted into hate, enmity, jealousy. These are our daily experiences. So one must confess to oneself that one does not even know what love is. I do not know how many of us will have the humility to say this even to ourselves, that we do not know what love is. Our sentiment and feeling of love or affection, which is rooted in duality, which is only a temporary psychological tendency, and which has become the foundation of our life and relationships, is not, we see this clearly, what love is. We do not, we do not know what love is, and we lack love in our lives. Of course, one can't describe or define what God is. Therefore, I hesitate to use that word. But for me, love is God, and God is love. And love is not different from truth. Call truth the fragrance of love, or call love the perfume of truth. It's just the same. It's the same fact. The angle of looking at it may be the only difference. We may have huge libraries. We may have books on theology, philosophy, and metaphysics. We may hear the talks of many a saint and sage, and yet our lives are empty. When we depart from the world, we depart empty-handed, with ashes of words filled in our minds. This is at the root of all misery. If we really see this as a plain truth of life, and not as an idea of a crazy person coming from the East, if we see this as a naked truth in our daily life, then that very understanding will strip our consciousness of all vanity and pride. A true human civilization will not begin unless man learns the way of love. We are civilizing, we are refining and culturing the external shells. The bodies and minds are but shells within which we dwell. But inside these shells, we are barbarians. So let us have the humility to say to ourselves that we have yet to discover how to live as a human being on this earth. One is not denying the significance of what man has achieved through science and technology, the arts, sculpture, and music. We don't deny the importance of the sciences, but this is all dealing with the world of symbols. All the languages in the world, one may become proficient in them, and yet one is dealing only with symbols. Words are symbols, they're not reality. One may learn classical music from the East and the West, and it may soothe the nervous system. It may pacify the surface consciousness. It may create and induce a state of silence for the mind. And yet one is still in the realm of symbols. One may be an artist, a sculptor, and deal with lines and shapes, light and forms, and create something which is very noble. But one must realize that all those lines and figures, the forms, the shapes, are only symbols. We are using means of transport which can take us faster and faster. The whole globe is shrinking. Space and time are shrinking before the efforts of the human brain. If one wants to understand what life is, one has to transcend the mind. One has to transcend the psychological structure that has been created by the ego. We're given names by our parents. We are Harry and Robert, Joan and Ruth. These are the names given to us. We're taught how to react emotionally and intellectually. We go on acquiring various patterns of thinking, feeling, and reacting, and they get stored in our memory. We react according to those patterns, and we call them our thoughts and feelings. There's nothing original and nothing individual on the level of the mind. Thoughts and feelings and patterns of reacting are created by society and culture. One may decorate them in different individuals, but the psychological structure is a creation of society. As long as one is living in a prison house created by society, constructed by the ego, one will never be able to commune with life, with the totality of life, in a simple and direct way. I feel and sense that the time is ripe for the whole of humanity to go through a total psychological revolution, a mutation in the psyche. It is no more necessary to play about with the psyche, to give it new thoughts, ideas, and new ways of reacting. Man has to find out the way of stepping out of the psyche altogether. Man has to discover a new dimension. Man is so much more than his body and mind. So stepping out of the prison house of the body and mind created by the self is the beginning of religion. Religion is a personal discovery of the truth of life. So one has to launch upon an adventurous journey within. The journey beyond the mind is not outside of us. It is beyond, within us. So it's an inward voyage, not an outward one. We cannot carry the mind with us on this voyage. Mind is unequal to the task of discovering what is beyond symbols. Mind is incapable of finding out anything except through the means of the sense organs and the storehouse of memory. Either the mind has to refer to the senses or to memory. Mind cannot function in any other way but by these two. And these two are bound by symbols. Take away the symbol, take away the words, and the mind cannot think. Can any person think without words? We can't speak without words. So transcending the frontiers of our psyche cannot be an act of the mind. It can't be an act of the will. The only thing one can do is to leave the mind with all its talents and capacities intact, in abeyance. With the cessation of mental activity, reactions come to an end, and the doors open for real action. It is not easy to live in humility. Mind, the mischief maker and the creator of illusions, wants to peep in at every turn, distort and twist the response according to the convenience of the ego, the owner of that psychological structure. The very content of consciousness becomes bondage. Sometimes we come to the periphery and give a hand to another person for a moment. That is not meeting a person at all. That is why there are so few relationships. There are houses, but very few homes. There are verbal exchanges, but very few relationships. There are adjustments to each other's idiosyncrasies, but very few friendships. That is the world we're living in today. So when one stands in humility and innocence, every mischievous trick of the ego is perceived. Then that innocent gaze will be able to perceive what the fact of a human being is. For me, every human being is a mystery. I do not know how one can dare to say that I know my husband or my wife. They are dynamic, moving entities. They're not like chairs, tables, or walls. They are static. Every human being of tremendous infinite potentiality of growing into divinity is a mystery. I think enough for today. I'll carry on with this talk tomorrow. So have a very good day.